What's going on, guys? Tonight we're talking about Bondi Beach. 16 dead, 43 wounded, a father and son armed, deliberate, and ideological. Australia probably thought that the lone wolf was going to be their worst nightmare. Instead, they got a pack.
And this video graphic as well. Authorities say that these are possibly the two gunmen. You can hear them shooting. Now, we are told one of the gunmen was shot and killed by police. The other arrested and is said to be in critical condition. Along with the 11 victims that were killed, another 29 people were injured, including 2 police officers. Officials have declared this a terrorist attack due to the type of event that was targeted and the weapons used. The state's premier saying this attack was designed to target Sydney's Jewish community. A number of suspicious items were located in the area, including an improvised explosive device found in one of the suspects' cars.
Imagine for a second, and think if you or your team or even your department, if you work in that capacity, what would happen if this style attack was happening in 5 locations at once? That's how the bad guys turn their chaos into choreography, and that is a topic that very few people even think to address. So we know what just took place today, and man, talk about a wake-up call for Australia. You know, Bondi Beach is one of Australia's most iconic landmarks, and that is now the setting for what was the deadliest terror attack in the nation's history. Yeah, the 2 shooters that opened fire at a Hanukkah celebration, killing 16 people, which included, multiple children, as well as elderly survivors of the Holocaust. You had the witnesses there describe the scene as absolute hell on earth, which how could it have been anything not? Nothing like that was on any of those people's minds, I'm sure. Then you have the authorities who later found the suspected IED, or improvised explosive device, in a car linked to the attacker. So it's pretty easy to say that, with certainty, this wasn't some random act of violence. It was targeted antisemitism, time for maximum symbolic impact. And I literally just did that video talking about situational awareness, especially around the holidays, because we know events like these are targets. And now, here's where the controversy is already beginning with this attack. There's reports from witnesses suggesting that the police hesitated. You have survivors claiming that officers froze. I would assume this was just probably due to them being unsure if there were more attackers or explosives were staged nearby. And man, especially in a coordinated attack against people who obviously trained and probably even rehearsed this, that hesitation is just deadly. Seconds will matter in your response. Now, what really sucks about this is that from all the videos we've probably all watched by now is that these guys, when they were conducting this attack, they didn't look unsure of themselves at all. Not for a second. And you know why that probably is? Because they had no fear of anyone that was armed confronting them. Australia has some of the strictest gun laws in the world. And that was primarily due to, after in 1996, they had their Port Arthur massacre. And right after that, they made sweeping reforms that banned semi-automatic rifles and instituted mandatory buybacks. And despite all that, Bondi Beach now still happened. So look, we know there was a hero in the story, Ahmed Ahmed, but looking at the video as proof, look how close he had to get to the suspect in order to stop him, as opposed to any one of those, what were victims or bystanders being armed themselves and having the ability to end that attack, virtually immediately. Now, all this happening while here in America, just yesterday, we're dealing with the shooting that took place at Brown University. So, as like any time events like this take place, stand by, because the debates are going to rage. You're going to have more restrictions versus more readiness. One side arguing that gun laws prevent mass shootings, while the other side will probably point to Australia and say, nope, it's not the fact that guns are, here or not here. It's simply because of ideology, radicalization, coordination, because no matter what hate doesn't vanish with legislation. And I think the true lesson here, and really with all of these incidents, and I mean, yeah, I literally teach this topic. So the lesson isn't just about access. It's about the response to them, your speed, your coordination, and your mindset. Because yeah, gun laws can help shape the battlefield, but they don't erase the threat. And with that, here is what we would classify this incident here as a MACTAC, or multiple assailants coordinated attack. And while this is not commonplace yet, it's certainly not unheard of. So this is an absolute, thing that is prepped for here. In fact, the MACTAC, which they changed to multi-assault counterterrorism action capabilities, that doctrine was actually born from the Las Vegas PD after they studied the 2008 Mumbai attacks and the 2015 Paris attacks. And basically what it boils down to is it trains responders to expect organized, synchronized shooters. So I think that with Bondi Beach, don't just look at this as just two men with guns. If you've never heard of it before, or you haven't given much thought on it, or even, better yet, trained for it, this is now the most recent example as to why you should be training for MACTAC scenarios. If you're doing it, it's got to just involve, multiple shooters, explosive staged, and panic that is amplified by disinformation. And some of the key concepts to keep in mind when thinking about this are that these things like this, they don't have to be multi-person attacks. They can also be multi-vector attacks. You can have a physical vector, a digital vector, and even a psychological vector. And since this is a type of asymmetric warfare, remember that, asymmetric warfare itself thrives on timing, not necessarily the scale of the incident. And doing that their coordination collapses response times, it overwhelms systems, and magnifies the fear of everyone involved. Now, what's really crazy to me is that while Australia is reeling from their, its deadliest their deadliest terror attack, and again, we just had Brown University here, at the same time, Ranch Strategy, we're gearing up for our live fire tactical medical training course this Tuesday, which directly relates to the response to things like these. So, to me, that's not coincidence, that's relevance. So if you don't have the chance to come out to make it to one of our classes, make sure in your drills, if you're trying to do this on your own, that you're trying to simulate the chaos, put gunfire, have casualties, have comms breakdowns, the exact environment that Bondi Beach became in real life, just so that you can work to build that good stress inoculation. That way, like I say a ton on here, you aren't reacting to the situation, but you're responding, because training isn't paranoia, it's preparation, and it builds rhythm. It's survival in its purest form. So, guys, yeah, I was trying to do a comms specific video on Sundays, but when things like this break, it's what my mind is focused in on. So we'll get the next comms specific one out soon. But man, Bondi Beach is a warning. You watch. The lone wolf era is ending. The pack is here. But you're not helpless. You're not blind. You're not alone. So work on it. Build your protocol. Test your rhythm. Coordinate your survival. Because when hesitation meets coordination, chaos is going to win every time. And when the pack moves, the thing that stops it is a planned and practiced response. And with that, guys, pray for every family that was torn apart due to this incident. And we'll see you on the next one. Be safe.